All right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, Coin Observatory. Thank you guys for tuning into today's Power Hour. Things have been not so interesting past couple of days. Market kind of stalled sideways. And I do believe that's due to BTC being at dominant support. And I'm going to go ahead and go over that shortly. As of now, I'm going to start with covering BTC, seeing what's going on with the technicals. The hourly chart's putting up a bull flag, which is currently attempting to break upwards. That's going to be a XBT USD BitMEX chart. More interestingly, the CME chart is actually showing a bullish formation as well. I was talking about this last week, and this is going to be a descending broadening wedge, which typically break up. We've traded several of these, several descending broadening wedges. I do have it on a line chart. It's still easier to read. There's going to be some gaps if we go to candles. We did see a gap up, right? We did not see a gap fill. We have not seen a gap fill yet, which is a little bit worrying, right? Because we could see a retrace back to support or back to previous resistance, and it needs to turn into support. But based on CME's chart, we're seeing an inverse head and shoulders, and it looks like it's complete. So we could see a breakout here, and a sustainable one. If you guys are still holding the leverage longs that we were picking based on descending broadening wedges down here on smaller time frames, smaller intervals, your longs should be in profit. Going over the head and shoulders, we saw one previously fail. It was just on XBT. It wasn't quite on CME. So we've seen one fail on our regular chart. And is this one going to fail as well? Well, that's going to be interesting if we do see this one fail. If we see this one fail, then BTC is going to be in trouble. All right. We can expect a move down to lower lows. But according to the market cycle that I was talking about last time, right, I'm seeing a run up to 4,800 or so. The longer it takes to get that breakout going, the lower that target's going to be, because that moving average is basically slanting downwards. I'm going to go ahead and pop that up on the BTC chart, on the XBT chart. And go to the daily. So our bullish target, according to the market cycle, is going to be our white line. Which is one of our moving averages. It's the first time we see this moving average on altcoins because it is a very longer term one. And right now we're looking right at that 47.73. So every day that target, bullish target gets lower and lower because that long-term moving average is headed down, right? But if we look at alts, some of the successful trades we've been trading, that was our first sell target, right? And we picked it back up in for a continuation at a further point. So I'm just going to remove my drawing tools. Actually, before I do, our bullish target on this flag is if we do get this breakout, it looks like volume's just now coming in for it. Our bullish target on this flag is going to be the previous high of 4,100, right? Which is going to put this far above the neckline. And we might see a head turn, right? I'm not saying this is bottom, absolute bottom, and we're done with it. But if we do get up to that 4,100 mark today, or with this breakout, with this bull flag, we're going to see a closure of this head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders on XBT USD for an upwards move. Going over BTC dominance, we did see alts kind of take a struggle, take a little bit of a beating, and I believe BTC dominance will tell us why, right? We're looking at dominance. It looks like it's a yearly support. Support has been in this area. It acted as support several times. And we're going to need BTC somewhat fight back, and we might see alts take a little bit more of a beating. So at this point, you know, I'm over 50% BTC and ETH because the 53% dominance mark where we are right now, a little bit higher actually. Right now we are at a 53.8. That's acted as support since September 2018, right? The problem is if we try to compare or try to build a correlation between BTC dominance and BTC price, well, there's not really one, because I've seen periods of direct correlation, periods of indirect correlation, or inverse correlation, where dominance is headed up and BTC price is coming down, and periods where they're both going up or periods where they're both coming down. So trying to determine BTC price based on dominance is not going to help us right now. It's not. Good morning, good evening, Georgia. It's 2 p.m. here. It's like good afternoon. What's going on, guys, on Facebook? Drop me a comment or a wave so I know who all's watching. Interestingly, we're seeing a breakout on ADA. ADA is just now completing a inverse head and shoulders. I'm going to cover that because it's one of our open longs. And you're seeing closure above our key moving average, a little bit of a bull flag here. And we're definitely seeing this inverse head and shoulders kind of close, right? And ADA is somewhat leading the breakout today in terms of margin alts. I think it's up more than the other tokens on BitMEX. Morning, Delilah. So I'm expecting a bit of a bullish continuation out of ADA. Has been quite a bit of buy volume. Look over on the BitMEX ADA chart, and I think Q18 is going to be the, nope, H19. Dang it, BitMEX. All right, going back to Binance. So we're seeing this inverse head and shoulders complete. I'm going to draw it out. It has been complete. And I expect more continuation. RSI is not through the roof, right? It's just now getting up to the 68 mark, right? And we can see a breakout. We get into that overbought. We could see a breakout happen. It's definitely looking bullish. Moving averages have cleared. I'm going to go over to my other MA setup. Our ADX is at 33, right? So we could expect more continuation out of here. The stochastic on the daily is starting to come down. I'd like to see a coil on a 4-hour. You did see a rising wedge, a bit of a retrace, a falling wedge, and an upwards move. You guys have access to my notes. I posted today that we're seeing several tokens do this falling wedge setup, right? And it's going to be something to look out for other breakouts. And yeah, I think this thing's at falling wedge target, but the volume is pretty high. So it's going to be a sustainable breakout. It's a 2,000 BVOL. I hope it's going to be a sustainable breakout. I've got a pretty big position. What's going on, Lars? I'm going to go back over total market cap, including BTC, and we'll go total without BTC. And I'll start taking altcoin requests. Total market cap's got inverse head and shoulders as well, and that is currently breaking up, right? Do you think there's a 13% upwards move that I posted on in my notes today? And let me go ahead and pull that up, kind of zoom in. Sorry, I'm charting on an ultra wide, so it takes a while to get screens adjusted when it comes to trading view. This looks like an Adam and Eve formation, right? We got a deep V, we do have a rounding bottom, we do have an inverse head and shoulders. So there's a lot of bullish formations happening. It's not just one. It's not just like a bull flag on an hourly. You're seeing several cascading bullish formations. Is this a bull trap? It could be, right? But I don't think it is. I don't. The 150-day moving average acting as resistance for the total market cap. I do believe if we get a closure above it, we're going to see a leg up to our next target, which is a 13% leg up, if I am correct, if my previous chart was correct. Oh, let's not do that. Yep, it's the 13% move up in total market cap. And that's going to be fairly bullish, right? It's going to generate us some gains. So if we're in the right alts, if we're leveraging the right way, we could expect some profits, right? And if this line keeps acting as resistance, then the next time we get friction with it, it'd be a good time to start hedging, all right, and profit taking. But several cascading bullish formations on several different charts. So it's going to take some pretty strong forces to bring us back down. The BTC daily chart, we see in moving averages start acting as support instead of resistance. So I'm just going to go back to like XBT. Right, we're seeing moving averages start acting as support. We're seeing them start moving up to the upside on BTC, which is good because previously they had been acting as resistance. Right here, we see the 50 MA act as resistance, and now we're seeing like the 30 and the 10 and the 9 just really start helping price stay up. So we know there's moving average support down below. So if we see a downwards break to like 3,800, we should expect support there. We should, technically. And check back on this intraday bull flag, see what's happening. It looks like we're trying to clear it, right? It's kind of an important point in time. Have we bottomed for the bear market? You know, it's gonna be a tough conclusion to make. I don't know if there's any harmonics traders in the stream. If you guys see like a bullish bat, bearish bat, if this is a harmonic, let me know. I'm not big on harmonics, but I know some of you guys are. All right, ready for some questions on BTC and Ether before we start taking altcoin requests. Guys on Facebook, YouTube, anybody have any questions on BTC? Any news on Ether Classic? I haven't followed the technicals or the fundamentals on Ether Classic, but I will gladly look at the chart. Let's look at EGC, BTC, see what it is in terms of the cycle that we've been trading. Don't look like there's news, but it looks like it's ready to pop up. Looks like a short squeeze is brewing on here. What is my bullish target on Ether Classic? If it is following the current cycle, right, you're gonna expect a nice upwards move. Another 16% up, right? We do know that there's this overhead resistance. If you look at this chart, right, we see I think this is the 100-day moving average, right, on the daily is acting as resistance. We saw it happen here. We've seen it happen here, and currently trying to clear that. So I would look forward for a close above. Go ahead and drop you a price tag because you can't see my price line. Right at that 1174, right? A close above here is gonna create another upwards move. And if this thing's moving according to the cycle that we've been tracking, I'd expect 1338 to be the next resistance, right? This is going to be where we're going to see a big swing up, and we're going to see a sell-off happen over here and for a consolidation below it. And the reason I'm saying this is because you've seen this happen over and over in several alts, and this is the cycle we are currently trading. I'm not seeing a bottoming formation, right? But we do know that Ether Classic tends to squeeze fairly hard. And it's still early in the swing, right? We're not seeing very many bullish crosses on the daily. So it could stall out below 1174 for another continuation. Going over CMT. Right, so looks like there's a falling wedge on the daily, right? And we're still seeing another possibility for another move up to the 1050 mark. This looks like a 50% retrace. I'm gonna go ahead and go in a 240. So help me narrow down a falling wedge, if there is one, and it looks like there could be. What are we seeing? I wouldn't quite call that a falling wedge. It's more of a descending, broadening wedge. And we've seen these break up historically, right? It's actually a bullish formation. So closure above is going to cause a continuation. I'm going to add an RSI to see where we're looking as far as spot, like what's momentum doing. Several tokens have done this, and the RSI isn't looking too healthy. It looks like RSI is kind of struggling to break that 54 mark. You can see that it's attacked it as resistance. Well, let me scoot over a bit. So RSI is acting as resistance, but in terms of fibs, Fibonacci retracement on CMT is it bounced right off that 61.8 once, twice. We're looking at an intraday bull flag. Let me check volume. Volume's at 172 on Binance, so it's going to be like early pre-breakout volume. It's doing that intraday bull flag with support below on the 4-hour in terms of moving averages. We saw it test once, test twice, but it's looking like a bull flag. Somewhat incomplete. The 4-hour looks healthy. Alright, so what do I think of Lumens? Lumens did our target 3 last night. XLM BTC hit our target 3 last night. It's one of our open longs. I think Lumens is one of the strongest tokens fundamentally in terms of partnerships and everything else that follows. This big move down on Lumens was, I didn't see a technical reason or a fundamental reason for it, right? So looking at XLM, I think it's still got a lot more upside left in it. And I had an RSI, so I'm just not, so you got you're seeing a little bit of a bear div on the daily, but is this breakout over? I'm not sure it is. If you guys have been long, you're probably scaling out. If you're trading with us, you're probably scaling out at targets because it's something you've been preaching. Is this a wedge? Not sure if it's a wedge or not. It doesn't quite look like it. It looks like an incomplete one. We saw attempted support here at the 50% fib. We see these tweezer bottoms rallied back up, rejected 23%, back down, trading at the 68. So it's still looking healthy, right? If we start getting closes above that 27 or below 27.91, I'd consider scaling out a little harder. The hourly RSI is looking good, right? We got this higher high, similar high. Go to 240. There's a tweezer top there, so it's kind of like it's in a range, right? So Lumens is in a range right now. Is a double top. Is there a bear div? Alright, so technically the candle close is higher here than it is here, and it's showing the same thing on RSI. But Lumens is in a range. When trading a range, support is a buy and resistance is a sell. But there's also a cup and handle on the 4-hour. Alright, cup and handles happen at the top, and they tend to break out violently. That's our cup. This is our handle. We're gonna want to see volume come in, right? If Lumens tends to crack that 29.17 mark, we're gonna see a pretty big bullish continuation. In terms of daily chart, we are below the yearly low of last year. Not quite. This is 325. So we're back in this bottom range, right? I'd like to see this cup and handle on the 4-hour breakout or continue the breakout. This attempted breakout was on good volume as well. All right, so I was eyeballing BNB earlier today, and it looks like it's ready for a pullback. You guys know about my BNB hedging theory, right? Problem with BNB is it could go divergent and just keep moving up. I really think Binance does a good job at upvaluing their own token. So whether this is acting as a rising wedge or a pennant, I'm not sure, but we did see a big hunk of sell volume come in. Has support broken. They're trying to keep it above. So it's actually broken support and it is acting as a rising wedge. We do see a higher high. Two higher highs that are divergent. I think BNB is ready to make a leg down and BTC is ready to rally, right? If you guys have followed some of my findings before this rally actually started, I published on Medium that BNB's movement is letting us know that we're going to see a BTC rally. It's one of my articles that was back in February. And if we are in a period of inverse correlation, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to remove all indicators. We're going to compare BTC on a daily chart. So I think time and time again, we've seen these two act in, as hedges, right? So when BTC decides to come down, it's kind of tough with this last big move on BNB. Getting everything to line up right. There you go. So charted in white is the price of BTC and the candles are BNB. And you can see several periods of inverse correlation here. Come on, work with me. All right, so we see BNB make a high and BTC make a swing low. BNB pull back, BTC make an upwards move, and right when BTC does a head turn, BNB does a head turn. So we saw this play out time and time again in 2018, and then the 60% rise in BNB had kind of alerted us that something's, the market's ready to rally. And here we don't quite see the correlation play out the same way, but when Binance does this, when BNB makes these big upwards moves, it's for a good reason, right? It's like BNB can produce more BTC by moving up their own coin. And that's where these market cycles come in, where alts rally and then Ether rallies, or alts rally on Ether, alts rally on BTC, then BTC USD rallies. So it's a way of generating more BTC for Binance for BTC rallies. And then when BTC is ready to turn, they'll hedge it back into BNB. So it's just it's like an accumulation of both token strategy that I think BNB is doing. So that's my thoughts of BNB. And it looks like it's ready to pull back. I'm gonna go back and add an RSI, see how divergent it is on a daily. That being said, this token is at an all-time high in terms of BTC. I'm looking at BNB USD, see what what's happening on the tethered chart. That definitely looks like a rising wedge, right? And we do have a higher high that's divergent on the daily. Can we expect a retrace? Where could it retrace to? I'm just going to go ahead and fib this. Right, and BNB is one of the hardest charts to trade because it does break through divergences and it is fueled by the strongest exchange. It's their actual token. So if we were to get a pullback, maybe like a 50% retracement back to $12.55, going to the 240. There's definitely a rising wedge here. Though it has not broken support on the USD chart, so you could see another move up. All right, it hasn't broken support on USD, which is interesting. We do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 touches. I try to break support. I'm gonna add volume, see if it was good volume that brought it up, or it's quite a bit of selling here. All right, going over Yo-Yo and AirSwap token. Yo-Yo's showing some bear div. It did hit some of our targets. I think it hit like T2, T3. I scaled out of Yo-Yo back here. I should be stopped out of Yo-Yo by now. It is actually retesting the previous flag. Breakout formation. I'm not seeing anything on the hourly. Daily volume is dropped. It's dropped really hard. It's at 78 BTC. So I'm not expecting momentum out of Yo-Yo right now. This big wick was scary. It stopped out at quite a few of us, and then we did see these two big upwards moves that failed twice. Currently out of Yo-Yo. I want to see more volume come in. I'm not getting exit signals on the daily moving averages, the 240. I believe they are, right? We did see a bit of a bearish cross here. I can see a retracement and back down to 448. I'm not seeing reversal formation or a bottom formation or really volume doing anything. No interesting volume. AirSwap token was headed upwards today. And we're seeing it trying to close above our key moving average. It's done this several times, gotten rejected several times. It's going to need a little bit more volume. There's a bit of a cup and handle, but it's not really acting very aggressive. Once again, BTC dominance is at support, right? If BTC dominance turns around, we're gonna see a lot of alts pull back, and I think that's what we're seeing the market gearing up for. All right. Doc, I believe Doc is still looking fairly good. It's below our key moving average on the daily. RSI on it's kind of winding up, looking for momentum. It's doing a bit of a falling wedge. We do want to see a close above 285. It's going to set it off. Volume is 215, right? It's looking a lot healthier than something like Yo-Yo, which is at 78. So we're seeing a lot more volume. RSI is finding support. Going over the 4-hour. It's trading above the previous range. Is possibly, I'm not going to call this a wedge or any type of formation, but the daily chart's looking good. It's looking healthy. We just need to get a close above 285 and we can see DOC really start taking off, especially with the volume being at 215 a day. Once again, we're seeing the market go sideways, right? Like last 4 weeks, 5-6 weeks before this last 7-8 days, we saw rallies happen. We made quite a bit of gains and the market stalled, and I believe that's due to BTC being at the yearly support in terms of dominance, and this is where the market is at a tipping point. Are we going to see a BTC rally or are we not? And if we see a BTC rally, is dominance going to go up and how's it going to impact alts? So that's why we're seeing the market kind of stall out. Go ahead and go back to the BTC dominance chart. All right, this dominance is looking, it's at the yearly support. If we get a turn here, alt can put the hurting on several alts. There's a bit of, is that a falling wedge possibly? Is that a bear flag? Let me go ahead and go in on an hourly time frame. It's no wedge. So you're seeing uncertainty. This is what uncertainty looks like, right? There's between greed and fear. It's more of like a sideways consolidation, which I don't like seeing. Typically, we want to see markets move up. And I do think another contributing factor to this, if you look at like stock market indices, it's we're not sure if they're at a turning point or if they're coming back down. You know, if you remember like 2017, all markets were risk on. 2017, we saw this big run up in all markets, right? In terms of global markets right now, what's going on with this top? It gapped up. Is this an exhaustion gap or is it going to be a continuation gap? Let's look at volume. What's volume doing? Is it falling? Is it rising? Well, volume's kind of dropping. And if we want to see either risk on, he's going to be like several conditions that they're going to cause a BTC rally. Risk on in all markets, or a pullback turning BTC in a hedge. And we've seen inverse correlations, we've seen direct correlations. There's no true science behind it. We just have to wait and see how the markets react to what's happening. If we do get a pullback in traditional markets, we could see a pullback in BTC, or we could see BTC act as a hedge. So we saw it act as a hedge several times here, where we see somewhat of an inverse correlation. My point of view on global markets, this move down to the 1,000-day moving average in December, we kind of called for it, right? And I think when these moves happen, we're going to see a bigger term correction. This has happened a few times. I've written on this, published on this previously, so I'm not going to go over all that. But I do think this move here and moving sideways, a drop in volume, is causing uncertainty in all markets. Do you have any questions? Give me some more alts. Alts are fun. Got about 25 minutes left in the stream, guys. So show me some altcoins. I know there's more you want me to cover. Raven. So I saw Raven making an up move today. I'm currently stopped out of Raven. So you're seeing divergence on the hourly. I'm seeing a rising wedge and a descending broadening wedge. This thing's moving on pretty good volume. I don't see any like short-term bearish crosses, but I do see a wedge. All right, so we saw a wedge, we saw a pullback, and now we're seeing a bit of a pennant possibly. So at this point, monitoring Raven, if somebody's in this trade or looking to get in this trade, you want to look out for formations, failure of formations. And at this point, volatility is so high that you might want to even go off wicks to see if support's holding or not. Let me just do another secondary line. And your threshold for a stop here is going to be bigger than something that is not already breaking out. All right. I do think RBN does have the momentum to go higher, to breach the previous high. And a close above is going to give it a pretty bullish target. Remove all drawing tools. You could also see this come back down, consolidate, give us a cup and handle. Let me see if we're in between targets or not. So you did see it reach this target. It looks like we're flagging on the 4 hour. So maybe go to 360. I don't think this breakout's over. I don't. Going back to the hourly. I think Raven might have some more room to run. 30. There's a descending broadening wedge on Raven, kind of like what BTC on the CME chart's doing. Is that a descending broadening wedge? It is. So I'm seeing you know, bullish formations and bearish formations where there's that little the rising wedge, a flag, a descending broadening wedge. But yeah, I can see it going back up to 929. Closing above 929 on a daily is going to direct us to a newer high. Also, that's all I have on Raven. Going over Neo, Vet, TRX. All right, volume on Neo is a 532. Currently closing below our key moving average, though there is some upside momentum. Trading above previous resistance, so previous resistance turning into support, which is good. I do believe if we get a close above like 23,207, 23,2, are you going to see more momentum coming to the chart? Going over the 4 hour, am I seeing any formations? Seeing a range. We're not quite at the bottom of the range yet, so Neo's in a range. All right. You got several touches. 1, 2, 3. Not seeing anything tradable here. I wouldn't take a Neo trade. VET, on the other hand, I'm still holding quite a bit of VeChain. Seeing somewhat of a bullish pennant that is consolidating on dropping volume, right? But in terms of market cycle, this thing is not completed the cycle, and it was heading up in a bullish manner. So you saw a pennant forming. Now it's kind of breaking below. I want to see price get back into the pennant for an upwards move to 145, right? It's trading above previous resistances. We're seeing previous resistances active. Support, we're seeing support coming even above, a little higher. I still have a bullish outlook on VET. RSI is not divergent on the daily. Go ahead and broaden that. If you go off wicks, it's still looking like a pennant broke below. But if you look at some of KMB's charts on ADA yesterday, he saw the same thing happen, and then ADA broke up and he kind of got stopped out. And I said, no, it was actually a falling wedge. It wasn't a pennant. So if this is a wedge, we could see a little bit more of a range and then into a breakout. But I do believe that is headed up to our key moving average. And once again, the target, the longer it takes to get that target, the lower that target gets. TRX. You see an obvious death cross here on the daily, and as soon as that happened, chart pulled back, retraced, trying to get oversold, not really getting oversold. Volume's pretty high on Tron. I hold no Tron currently. Getting close to that at 50%, right? If we do want to see a bullish continuation, it needs to turn off the 61.8. I still have, you guys can see the little blue marks here. Those are my alerts set on TRX, and that's where I need a Coinigy to let me know to look at this chart. And because there's nothing, there's really nothing tradable here. You definitely see bearish divergent top, third bearish div, and yeah, this was an exit signal. Could have been, should have been. All right, so when things break down from a wedge and they come up and retest, and they fail. There's so many exit signals on Tron where we got the rising wedge, it broke down, came back up, retested, and then a moving average death cross. And no volume, no interest. Going over mana. All right, mana still above our key moving average. We've seen it act as support for continuation previously. This is going to be the Binance chart. I think Bittrex is going to give us more data. So I'm seeing some failure swings on the 4-hour RSI. It's when the chart makes a higher high and the actual RSI refuses to break through. This is where it gets tricky trading mana. What are we seeing? Is this a reverse pennant? It could be, but it's not yet. There's a wedge. Definitely a wedge on mana. It's divergent, right? So we can expect mana to pull back. We got higher highs on the chart, failure swings on RSI. We can expect mana to pull back 50% from that last swing low to swing high, and we're just going to chart that out. I expect mana back at 1170 or 1147. Just because I expect it doesn't mean it's going to happen. Mana is a bit trickier to trade, right? We look at the daily chart. You zoom back. Where is this? So, yeah, that 50% target's at 1169 on the daily. I see support at 1186. There's a bit of a bearish engulfing candle on this close. It's definitely time to tie in a stop, or if someone's fundamentally long on mana from an investment standpoint, right? There's a good opportunity to add here. Let me go ahead and add an ADX, see if we're what's going on with the trend. So yeah, stochastic is failing. I'd expect mana to stall out a bit, right? And price to come back to 1166, that 50% retrace. All right, going over WAN for continuation. Looks like a high volume bounce too, right? Volume's at 589 BTC. We saw the rising wedge, and I said we are out of WAN. We also posted saying we're going to see a move to the 50% or 61.8 retrace on some of these tokens that wedged up and broke back down. It's just what we said on mana earlier. See where we are in terms of our swing trade. All right, and we saw resistance here, and then we saw an attempted breakout and it failed to continue the rally. This was our first sell target, buyback, sell target. Is this another buyback? Let me add an RSI, see if we're seeing some bullish divergences. There's a bearish divergence right here, and I don't think it's corrected on the daily chart. We haven't quite hit oversold, and I don't see a formation. There's a bit of a, what are you doing? It definitely broke resistance, right, and retested it, and we saw a bounce happen. Go ahead and stretch out my fib. So it's looking like it's at potentially a good buyback at the 61.8 on a tight stop. Right at the 50%. It's looking good, right? It's looking at a 50% retrace. Volume is up there. Let's go into maybe an hourly. It's not a classic wedge, but it acted like one. We had a breakout, a retest, another breakout. So I tightened stop on WAN, and yeah, RSI isn't like screaming upwards. Do we see a div? There's a bit of a divergence, a bullish one on the hourly. But once again, BTC's at that crucial support in terms of dominance. So that's another thing to keep in mind when eyeballing alts and when trading alts is what's BTC going to do and how are alts going to react? How's the market going to react to that? Hot volumes back at that 434. We did see an attempted rally off, I believe, the 50% retracement. And as of now, I believe HOT is still bullish. Right? I don't see any negative crosses, any bearish crosses. Volume's at 434, so it's definitely dropped a bit. Once again, market stalling. You're going sideways. BTC is at dominance support, right? At this moment, I'd be, I am heavier bagged in BTC than alts. On the other hand, you know, some things are breaking out, like ADA. Eternity's looking good. Eternity, we saw a rising wedge, and let me go over that chart. Going over the daily. Volume's at like 128. The intraday is looking decent. The hourly is looking pretty good, and I see ADA starting to pull back. So this is something that I'd expect a continuation out of. All right, we're seeing somewhat of an ascending triangle bottom. We're seeing a bull flag break up, right? You're seeing volume slowly come back into the chart. And you still have room on the daily, right? We're seeing another bullish cross. Let me go ahead and just make my purple MA a little more visible for you guys. Just going to go to a different color. And that's going to be our shortest term moving average that I'm using right now. And we're seeing it cross over the midterm, a little bit of a cross happen. Some tweezer bottoms, a bit of a bullish formation on the hourly, opening above resistance, with RSI above resistance as well. Thank you, Delilah. All right, guys, you got about 5 more minutes. I'll take 2 more altcoin requests. I'm going to go over one XBT chart that it looks interesting. It's like a Bitcoin weekly chart. And it's got a very bearish outlook, which we're seeing volume go. I don't see a reason for us to break down. I think it was a log chart.